Good morning and a happy Friday. Can you believe we made it to Friday? I am Jill. This is the Friday Grief Chat. I have my co host today. This is Zorro. And I would say that Deb's coming, but Deb is actually at the Association for Applied and Therapeutic Humor today, where she is hearing about all of the current research about how important humor is in life and in managing life and in recovering from loss and grief, which is something that we talk about here on this show every single week. And sometimes we don't talk about humor enough. So I'm hoping that Deb is coming back with a whole lot of stuff for us to talk about in the coming weeks. Deb, we hope you're having a great time. We both do. And we are looking forward to you returning to us. As I was anticipating Deb being gone and finding that folks that want to be on our show could not be available today, I was also being surrounded, just in sort of a really natural kind of a way, by people that I know, both know in person and know just online, but in various groups for long periods of time, at how many people have experienced the loss of a beloved furry family member this week, last week, 5 years ago, but it's an anniversary. It's a lot. I don't think I've ever seen that many in like a 2 week period. People having to make choices about their pet's health, about whether or not they want to continue their pet and keep their pet alive when the pet is not having quality of life and is in pain. People who have lost a pet suddenly, folks who lost a pet years ago and that pet just is always part of our lives, aren't they? They never go away. The picture I posted for today's chat was one of our pets that we had here at our home and was part of our life for a long time. And pet loss is an ambiguous loss, although it shouldn't be. It's not ambiguous. People who are pet people, whether they are pet people because they have a lizard, like my daughter Charity, who also has cats and dogs, by the way, or spiders, like a therapist named Ilsa, who used to work with us, or whether you have dogs like we have in abundance, or cats, as my mom and my mom did, and my daughter does, whether it's a tiny horse or yeah, you're tiny, but you're not a horse, or a Highland cow, which, by the way, I think that would be a really cool kind of a fur friend to have, a miniature Highland cow. Deb tells me they're not super nice, but I kind of think they'd be sort of fun. Or whether they are a bird or any of those other things, rabbits, everybody who enhances our life, when we lose them, it's not ambiguous. And it always sort of stuns me to see pets on the ambiguous loss list. Because, grief people, we have a list of losses that we talk about, and there's lots of them. There's relocation, there's retirement, there's change of jobs, there's layoffs, there are loss of parents, of siblings, of partners, of children, of pregnancies, of income with folks who've had stock market losses recently, loss of confidence in one's country. Several countries are having that experience right now. There are so many losses that are not one where you carry a casket out, or where you carry a casket out, but people don't inquire about how you're doing. They don't consider it a big loss to you. Your best friend dies. Well, your best friend's family had that loss, not you. That's considered an ambiguous loss. I just don't see, in fact, most of those as ambiguous. I see them as things that people don't call loss. And we need to change the word from ambiguous loss to real loss that people don't recognize, because that's what it is. It's a real loss that people don't recognize. And yet, pets, I mean, there are greeting cards now, finally, for pet loss. My dogs clearly think that's important if you didn't hear them in the background. Pet loss is not ambiguous. Pet loss is just like any other loss of someone who lives in your home. Pet losses are, I am waking up to this reality every morning. I'm going to bed with that reality. If I'm not the one who, if I'm the one who sleeps with the pet, or I'm the one who puts the pet to bed at night, or covers the bird cage at night, all of that, it's just like losing a partner. And for folks who don't have a partner or who are widows or widowers, um, a pet is a companion, and that is your primary companion because you have friends. But your friends aren't there when you come home from work at night. Your friends aren't there when you lose your car keys and need someone to talk to about losing your mind because you're grieving. Your pet is. Your pet is that fur person. And it doesn't have to be a dog. I just happen to have them in abundance. It can be any kind of pet. But they're there with you, and they're the ones who sit with you, who take care of you, who, when you are watching the wrong movie and you're starting to cry, even a cat will come on over and check you out. I don't know about spiders. I have to admit, I've not been someone who has invited spiders into my lap. I'm the one who has a spouse and a daughter who, when they see a bug, all they can do is say bug, 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 bug. And I'm expected to somehow remove bug from wherever bug is in proximity to them. I do try to save most of them. But pets are the ones who sit with us and who are part of our daily life. And when they die, or when they are dying and we have to make that decision, that's a loss that is not at all ambiguous. And it is usually the first loss that as kiddos we experience. There are so many losses that children experience, but pet loss is the one that adults can't protect them from. Now, they try. Parents who are afraid of talking about death and dying will do that thing where they say they took the puppy, who is now 18, to go live at a farm where they're going to live out the rest of their life for the next 30 years on this farm surrounded by duckies and birdies, and because they don't want to say the dog is dying and we need to go help our pet leave this life in our arms in a gentle way, which is really an important experience for kids. And it's an important experience for bonding for parent and child. And it's an important experience for building trust between parent and child. It's all those things. If we don't have that level of trust, then kids can't believe what we say about other losses. So if you are a parent or a grandparent and you've got kiddos in your realm, or a therapist and kids in your realm, we talk to kids about deaths. We don't hide it from them because they need to know. They need to know that things happen and that life doesn't go on forever and ever. Amen. And so we need to be able to help our little ones out of this world into whatever your family's belief system is about what forever looks like. All right. Now, Zorro here, he's 15. And his mama had a really difficult loss because she had to move. And she had to give her beloved baby up that she's had since he was about 6 or 8 weeks old because the circumstances of her world didn't allow Zorro to go with her. And so she was facing a really difficult decision as to whether or not Zorro would even be able to stay on this side of the planet. And we got a call and went and got him. And he still misses her. He's grieving her. That's his loss. But it's not ambiguous. He misses her. He's tolerating me. And at times he actually snuggles. But he clearly misses his mama. And we have her sweatshirt that he snuggles into still, because when we lose pets, we miss them. And when pets lose people, they miss their people. They really do. So I've watched friends. I have a friend in Denver who had a very beloved dog, and that dog was diagnosed with cancer sometime last year. And literally dozens to maybe 100 of us grieved from afar that diagnosis. It wasn't an ambiguous diagnosis. It was a we know what this diagnosis means diagnosis. And this week, that diagnosis took that dog's life. And we have I have another friend who had to put his beloved baby, Patrick in North Carolina, his beloved dog, to sleep because the pain was too much and there was nothing anyone could do. Just like for people, there are moments that vets can't fix it anymore. It doesn't work anymore. Even with the most advanced surgeries, it's not going to change. And in surgery for a pet that's massive, you can't explain it to the pet. You can't say, look, after surgery, we're going to have to keep you quiet. You won't be able to move around for 8 weeks, and you're going to be in a lot of pain. They don't get to make that decision. They don't have informed consent for pets. And so sometimes we have to make those decisions. And we have done that kind of on the regular in this household because we adopt the dogs who are seniors. We adopt the dogs who are midlife. We don't typically end up with puppies. When we do, it's an accident because puppies are not our thing. Lily Pad she was an accident. She looked like an old dog because of the condition she was in when we got her. She's not an old dog. She's pure puppy. But she's kind of fun, and she'll go catch a ball and bring it back, which none of the others are capable of. Most of them can't see the ball, right? But we do have pups who we have to make decisions for. And we have pups who have that decision made by their disease process and slip away from us. I had an experience during the pandemic. I think it was 2021. We had Gracie. And Gracie was from the pound, and she was going to be put to sleep. And they called us and said, would you come and get her? Because otherwise we have to put her to sleep. And we went and got her. And that little poodle weighed less than 4 pounds. She was so starved from being on the street. But she had a tiny little tumor, and they warned us. And we took her to our vet, and they warned us, you need to get her up to weight. And the minute you do, it's going to allow the tumor to grow. And then it's going to be a really fast process. And we gave Gracie about 8 months. She got to wait. She got to find the joy of having food available every moment of every day. She got to eat all the foods that most dogs don't get to eat because she was a hospice dog. And like hospice patients, hospice dogs get whatever they want to eat in this household. So she had the cake. She had the ice cream. She had filet mignon cut into tiny little bits because she had only about 3 teeth. She had all the things. She liked wearing dresses. She was on a lap at all times. And yet then the tumor came forward. And like with humans, that tumor went absolutely crazy and took over. And we had multiple weeks of really intensive care that we provided. And then Gracie was asleep one morning while I was online with a client, a grief client, and I could see her across the room in her bed. And I saw her take her last breath while I was working. And I did not tell my client that was happening. The client was unaware. I finished with the client about 3 minutes later because the hour was up. And our family had time then to say goodbye to Gracie and grieve with her and over her. And Gracie is now back home with us in our own little cremation collection in our living room. Yeah, that's okay, Zorro. That's what happens when you adopt senior dogs. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with it if you're prepared for it. But sometimes you make decisions, sometimes they make decisions, and it's not ambiguous. When Gracie took that last breath, it was not ambiguous. There was no denial. I knew what was happening. And I was prepared for it because we had been talking about it with our vet, amongst ourselves, with our friends. Everyone knew that it was happening. And that's what we did with it. We walked her out of this world. It makes me a little crazy when I hear folks minimizing the impact of a pet loss. I do think that we need to treat them with the same humor and the same grace as we grieve. We need to be able to tell the funny stories. We need to be able to talk about their quirkiness. We need to be able to share the joy that they brought with them into our home. We need to share the sometimes challenging moments with them in our home. When this one goes off to the next world, I will probably total up just how much I have spent to keep the house clean with dog pads because he doesn't have much of a stop. So we have to protect. We will talk about how he decided that he was the king of mama and nobody else could get near me and I have to sneak in hugs with the other dogs. When we lost our Bug Dug, whom we got from the pound, they called us and said, we have this sick poodle. He's got a collapsing trachea, which is normal for poodles who are seniors. And you have to rub their throats and sometimes use albuterol and help them relax so that they can open up their trachea again and they can breathe a little more normally. It feels scary. It feels like having an asthma attack from what I could see and what I see in our dogs and how I treat myself when I'm having an asthma attack, to be honest. And so Bug Dug had a collapsing trachea. We went to the pound. All we saw was his picture. And, it looked like any other white poodle, just a little face and ears. You don't know. It looks like a poodle, you assume. Bug Dug was 35 pounds of poodle. Bug Dug actually looked like a small pig in a poodle coat. He had that kind of presence, just whoop, 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 as he came down the hallway. And when he coughed, it wasn't the gentle little cough you just might have heard out of this one. It was a big cough. Bug Dug had never, as far as we could tell, experienced living inside, experienced having enough food, so he ate absolutely everything, even though he was huge. Never experienced a dog bed. We had to explain those to him. Our dogs are perfectly much allowed on our couches. He never felt comfortable jumping up on a chair or a couch. He didn't know what toys were. He didn't like grooming. And so we had a lot of experiences with him that were like firsts. And so we got him his first lamb chop toy. And he didn't know what to do with it. And then lamb chops became his thing. He liked tomatoes. He liked apples. He liked carrots. He liked anything that was food and sometimes things that weren't food. He didn't understand chewing on a bone because there was nothing good on it. And we had Doug for about 3 glorious years. He turned into one of the best critters one could ever have. And his loss was not ambiguous. His loss was a big part of our life had walked out the door the day he died. And the day he died, we knew he was dying. He wasn't in pain. We didn't go to the vet, but we knew he wasn't doing well. And we knew because we could pick him up and put him on our laps and snuggle him, and he relaxed, and he allowed us to for about 5 minutes. And then he went back to his favorite big giant bed. And toward the end of that day, he went and got all of his lamb chop toys. And he circled his big bed with lamb chops. So he was laying with his lamb chops. Now, Doug used to take a lamb chop with him out to the groomer van, and Lamb Chop got groomed before Doug did, so Doug could feel safe. Lamb Chop was a big part of Doug's life, and Doug wanted his lamb chops with him as he was dying. And then in his last moments, he stood up, he looked straight up, he barked. We don't know who he was barking to. And he laid down with his head on his lamb chops and let out his last breath, and that was our goodbye. And I'm not saying that to traumatize anyone. I'm saying that's not ambiguous. That was a big loss for us. And when people asked how I was doing the next day, I would say, you know what? I'm missing Doug. I woke up and there was no Doug to be excited that I was up. There was no Doug saying, let's go outside and play lamb chop. That wasn't ambiguous. And I could tell Doug stories and laugh about the first day we had him, and I had an apple in my hand, and he walked up and took it from me, the whole apple, and ate it. And I texted the director of the animal shelter and said, did you know you gave us an apple eater? And I'm a little afraid to take it back. And she said, I would be too. But I'm glad he likes healthy foods. That wasn't an ambiguous loss. But we can share Doug's stories now with humor. And we can give ourselves grace to say that's a real loss. And it really mattered. And we want people to share that loss with us because we're missing part of our life. Just like when I lost Adele, when we lost Gracie, all of them, all of the little ones who touch our lives. My first big loss, I had a grandmother who died while I was 13. But my cat Piggy was my cat till the day about 3 days after I turned 18, when he died in my arms. That was not an ambiguous loss, and it was a very big loss. And fortunately for me, my family circled around and recognized that that was a big loss, and it was a loss for them too. It really mattered. And to the day my dad died, he talked about Piggy because he loved that cat too. And he talked about what a gentleman he was and what a sweetheart he was and how much Piggy liked to steal his fish from his plate. Stephen says Harrell Stingo, our beautiful kitty girl, was 16. Jumped up on Harrell, cleaned his beard, said goodbye, then went to her corner and passed. Beautiful and sad at the same time, and the hurt is still with him today. Absolutely. When we lose a pet, it is not ambiguous. So the loss in North Carolina this week, the loss in Denver this week, the anniversary in Wisconsin this week of the bestest dog ever for another friend of mine. All of those are losses that are not ambiguous. The loss of kitties when my daughter's cats passed away, and they did. They died sudden deaths that were not expected. When they died, it wasn't ambiguous, and it was a lot of grief. And today we can share stories about those cats with humor. We can talk about Carrie having a cat that actually liked getting in the sink and having a bath, which is to me the weirdest thing ever. But that's the way Carrie raised that kitty. Carrie was her mama, and Carrie raised a beautiful cat. We had a cat of Carrie's that liked to grab your earlobe and hold on tight and suckle on it, which sounds really bizarre if you're the one having your ear attacked, but it's a memory we all hold. I can hear it right now, actually, in my head and feel it on my ear. That's not ambiguous. That's a real loss. Now, if you are someone who is facing a pet loss, if you are not there yet, make sure you're talking to your vet about how you're going to handle it, about what your options are. If you are going to have time to make a decision, do you instead want to have them refer you to a mobile vet who can come to your home? We did that with our Princess. The kids were teenagers. They'd already lost a parent. We knew Princess was at end of life. And so we had a veterinarian service come out and talk to them We did a little ceremony. We all petted Princess. The vet talked us through it, and we were all present for it. The same for my mom's dog, Greta. Same thing, 14 years old. We circled around at home because it meant that the dog didn't have to be afraid of being in the car and being at the vet's office, which causes stress. We all have white coat syndrome, right? Or are you going to go to the vet's office, and do you have a very caring vet? At our veterinarian's office, they have an electric candle they turn on with a sign that says, "There's a family experiencing a loss right now. We ask that you keep your voices down and be kind and considerate," because they're saying goodbye to a beloved family member. How cool is that? That's the way it should be. That veterinarian asked for a book to be written about pet loss and about the importance of you staying present when your pet is being put to sleep, so that your pet is being held in arms that love that pet their entire life, and they feel safe and secure as they drift out of this world. I wrote that book because that is what they asked for, and it's called My Pet is Sick, What Happens Now? It's important that we stay with them. It's important we don't blame our veterinarians when there's a loss. It's not the vet's fault. All of us have things living inside us that eventually one of them's going to decide it's time for our ticket to be up, right? I know that in my family, what my genetics are, I know there's lots of options, right? There's also cars and trains and planes and all kinds of things. There's lots of ways for us to exit this world. And there's only one way out of this world, and that is through death. And that is why we need to have some humor and some grace about it, so that when the grief comes, we can be honest about it. And so that we can be honest that death is part of life. There's also a book called The Invisible String, which is absolutely beautiful. I Googled again this morning before I started the program. There are several sites with at least 20 books about pet loss. There is a pet loss workbook now. There's one for preparing for your pet's death, a workbook. There's one on pet loss ceremonies, which I just love, because there should be a ceremony when a pet dies. There is at our house. There was when I was little. We had funerals. I conducted them. So there you go. I actually was considering getting myself ordained through there's a church of the Tomta, so I might be a Tomta minister soon. It'll give me the chance to be a legal ceremony provider. But that being said, we can do our own ceremonies. We can light a candle. We can tell people that matter to us that we've had a loss that matters to us. I have seen therapists who work for me come in and they look like they're just not okay. And I say, do you need to go home? Do you need to come in and chat? And they will melt and say, I put my so-and-so to sleep this morning or yesterday. So why are you here? You just had a major loss. Well, my client X and Y and Z, they needed me. I knew I couldn't cancel. Then let's take a moment out and grieve. And then let's make sure you have a shorter day. And let's give you some place to breathe, because you just lost someone who matters to you. That's how we should handle pet loss, like we handle people loss. All the other ambiguous losses, they need to be handled like any other major loss. Your best friend dies, that's a huge loss. Talk about it. I had that conversation with someone yesterday. They have a group of friends, and literally 3 of them have died in the last 3 months. That's not ambiguous. That's not minor. It is not something that you say, well, those are the family's losses, not mine. No, that's your loss. That is a definite loss for you. And it needs to be honored. And you need to talk about it. We need to be able to talk about those things. When there is a loss, we need to talk about it. And we need to be able to grieve. And we need to be able to have some humor in the grief, because that is how we survive grief without having a stroke or a heart attack. And we need to be able to give ourselves some space for some grace for what our needs are after a loss. And that is what I am hoping all of you are going to get from today is when you have a pet loss, you absolutely have permission to talk about it, to share about it, to tell others what your needs are, to make that loss part of your day and your week, to post pictures of your beloved pet. My friend Janine posted Tanner's pictures yesterday. I think that's wonderful. I actually do miss Tanner. Sometimes my friend Paul will post pictures of his dog that we all used to watch. He would post like a "Where's Waldo?" but it was his dog, and we'd all try and find the dog in the picture because the dog could blend into anything. That dog made blending in an art form. I miss those pictures being posted, and it's been years. So when those memory pictures pop up, it's oh yeah, I do remember that beloved baby. I never met that dog, but that dog's loss still matters to me because that friend matters to me and because I got to know that dog through all of the interactions online. My dogs used to send that dog pictures of themselves. We can honor the losses. We can honor the pet losses, and we can make the losses part of who we are and take them with us. We can make them part of what taught us to be human, what taught us that grief matters, and what taught us that giving grace matters, and that taught us that humor is a survival skill and a really good survival skill. So, Deb, I hope you learned lots this week. Everyone else, I expect Deb to come in and spill all the tea. We've already posted for our mid-May program where we're having a tattoo artist come and join us. And I'm meeting with someone who does readings this afternoon, who I met because we had Walter with us in Laughlin. And Walter caused a conversation. And so I'm having a continuing conversation this afternoon. And then we'll be bringing her onto the program to do a reading live while we are online. So we will post that one as well. We got some cool stuff coming. Please share the program, like us, find us on all of the podcast platforms. Give us a like, give us a share, subscribe. We appreciate it. We're a tiny little program, but we think we've got stuff that sometimes people need to hear. And we hope that you can share it with others. In the meantime, have a really gorgeous weekend wherever you are. I will be cleaning out the old house that's going to become our new nonprofit office. And hey, if you're local and you have some good quality used furniture, we need it. Just saying. Take good care, everybody. The Doodle and I wish you all the very best. Bye.